This is NBC Charlotte News at 5. We're looking out for you.
NBC Charlotte breaking the bombshell today of a corruption scandal in Charlotte. Mayor Patrick Cannon arrested on federal corruption charges. NBC Charlotte received a tip from a confidential source, and we broke this story on air. And we were the only ones in the courtroom when the charges were read to him.
Tonight, Mayor Cannon faces charges of theft, bribery, wire fraud, and extortion.
We have a team of reporters covering every angle of this still developing story. We begin, though, with NBC Charlotte reporter Rad Berkey. He was the only reporter in the courtroom when Mayor Cannon faced a judge for the first time today. Rad, how did he seem?
Well, Pat Cannon seemed absolutely stunned, Dave, as he sat there in the courtroom. You know as well as I do that politicians love public eye, but certainly not like this, sitting alone in a courtroom, listening as a judge reads you these serious public corruption charges. Take a look at the lengthy complaint here. This accuses Cannon of accepting various bribes from undercover FBI operatives who were posing as real estate developers looking for Cannon to smooth the way for their projects. At one point, he's accused of actually taking $20,000 in cash in his own office at the government center. After his release on $25,000 bond, I was waiting outside the courthouse to question him. Can you give me any reaction at this point, Mr. Mayor?
None at this point, but we'll be certainly willing to talk to you a little bit later on, okay?
What happened? Can you tell us what happened?
Well, nothing at this point that I can discuss, but I'll certainly be back in contact with you about it.
What would you tell the voters of the city today, sir?
Well, there's not too much I can say at this point, but when I'm able to, I'll certainly touch base back with you.
What is your reaction to the charge? Guilty? Not guilty?
At this point, there's nothing to respond to at this juncture, so I'll certainly circle back with you, though. Gotcha.
Now, one thing the FBI complaint says is that the Bureau has much of this investigation captured on audio and on videotape. As this case proceeds, and if it does go to trial one day, that's when we will hear and see what the FBI says it has on tape as evidence against Patrick Cannon. Reporting live at the Government Center, Rad Berkey, NBC Charlotte.
Thanks, Rad. The FBI also searching Mayor Cannon's house. We've learned just what they're looking for here. Federal agents seize things like cell phones, tax forms, and information in a brown fossil briefcase. NBC Charlotte anchor Ben Thompson is live in front of the mayor's house in Valentine this evening. Ben?
Dave, I want to give you a look at the scene here behind me. That row of cars going up this street, those are all unmarked FBI cars. You can see one Charlotte Mecklenburg police car here in the foreground that's actually handling some traffic issues. There in the background, that is Mayor Cannon's house. Now, earlier, his wife actually left the house. We were the only ones here. I asked her and gave her a chance to defend her husband. Take a listen. Is there anything you'd like to say? Anything in defense of Mr. Cannon? As you heard, silence from her. His mother also here at the house. She came out to her car earlier when we were here. She also said nothing. Of course, this is the home where the mayor lives with his wife and 3 kids. They've been married for some 17 years. FBI agents been here since 2 o'clock this afternoon. When we first arrived here, we were the first ones here. We know they're looking for things, Dave, like you mentioned, receipts, tax forms, appointment books, calendars, even things so specific as a fossil briefcase, even iPad, even perhaps guns as ordered by the judge we know this afternoon in court. We've been speaking to neighbors here around the neighborhood. In just general terms, I can tell you that they are absolutely stunned by this news, as much of Charlotte is. Neighbors are as well. They had no idea something like this would happen. Also, one other thing we should add is the big question, where is Patrick Cannon right now? As we alluded to at one point this afternoon, we know that his wife and his mom were here at the house. We do not know, though, where he might be at this hour. Reporting live in Valentine, Ben Thompson, NBC Charlotte.
All right, Ben, and NBC Charlotte cameras caught FBI agents searching easy parking at 300 West Trade Street. Mayor Cannon is the chief executive officer of that business. We saw several FBI vans on the scene there. Among the items the FBI is looking for there, financial records for Cannon and his wife, tax forms, and mobile telephones.
NBC Charlotte I-Team reporter Stuart Watson is combing through the 42-page criminal complaint. He is live in the studio right now with a closer look at the charges the mayor is facing.
Well, Angie, this 42-page sworn statement from an FBI agent is not at all dull reading. It tells us the Fed's version of backroom meetings, secret phone calls, a Las Vegas trip, and tens of thousands of dollars in cash. The FBI affidavit says that the agent made the first cash bribe by placing $12,500 in cash on a coffee table, at which point the FBI says Cannon looked nervously toward the window and covered the money with a folder. The undercover agent got up and closed the blinds, at which point they say Cannon placed the money near his ear and fanned the bills. But later, Cannon called the undercover agent to say, "I'm not one of those Chicago or Detroit-type folk. That's not how I flow." But in a much later conversation, when Cannon was bragging about his political connections, even in the White House, the undercover agent says, "You haven't even hit the pinnacle of your political career yet, have you, Patrick? It will be fun to watch you the next 10, 15, 20 years. Watch where you go." And, of course, the double entendre there, the agent or Patrick Cannon hearing, "Watch where your political career will go," the FBI agent knowing, "Watch if you're going to prison for 10 or 15 or 20 years. But, of course, what we're hearing now is the FBI's version of events. We can't stress that enough. We haven't heard from Patrick Cannon. Angie?
All right, Stuart, thank you. And here's a little more on Cannon's background. He was raised by a single mother. He was first elected to office at the age of 26. He's married with 3 children, and he was elected mayor on November 5th last year. Now, we recently sat down with Cannon just this month to talk about his first 100 days in office. He hit the milestone just 2 weeks ago, and we asked him what he was most proud of during that period. He told us the number of jobs he's created, some 1,400 jobs.
Governor Pat McCrory reacted by saying, "I'm both saddened and angered because I've known Patrick and his family for over 30 years. But more than anything, my heart is broken for the city of Charlotte." He goes on to say, "This is not the city that I know, served, and loved. This alleged behavior is inexcusable and cannot be tolerated." Now, word spread quickly of the charges. NBC Charlotte reporter Diane Gallagher is live in Uptown tonight at the Government Center with reaction there. Diane, we just heard from city leaders.
Yeah, David, you know, it seems that city leaders found out around the same time that our own Rad Berkey found out and was at the federal courthouse today. They were really shocked when they came in here. We'd waited for about 2 hours on the second floor of the government building for city leaders to come and make a statement. Council members and city manager Ron Carley finally came in about 4:45 to talk to us about their reaction to Mayor Patrick Cannon's arrest. Here's what they had to say about how they found out.
We were notified today at the same time as the public that Mayor Patrick Cannon was arrested on federal charges. The City Council is deeply disappointed to learn of the mayor's arrest. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family. His arrest came as a complete surprise to the City Council and the City Manager. The first any of us learned about the investigation is when the FBI served a search warrant on the mayor's office at noon today. The City Manager and City Attorney have spoken with the U.S. Attorney and committed the city's full cooperation. The City Manager has also directed that all city staff fully cooperate. The City of Charlotte has a long history of honest government, and the City Council is dedicated to preserving the city's reputation.
Now, I asked City Manager Ron Carley if anybody had spoken with Mayor Cannon since his arrest. None of the council members had. Ron Carley said that he did speak with him briefly, told him that he was praying for his family. I asked if he was going to ask the mayor to resign. He said that that conversation has not taken place, did not elaborate on if it would take place. City Council does not have the power to remove the mayor. For now, reporting live at the government building, Diane Gallagher, back to you.
Diane, thank you. Folks everywhere are buzzing about the news. NBC Charlotte reporter Bora Kim is on the streets of Charlotte and has some of your reaction.
Yes, and we were in Uptown this afternoon, in some cases breaking the news of these federal corruption charges to members of the public, while others told us that it was the talk in the office all afternoon. Now, for many visitors I spoke to, it really doesn't bode well for the reputation of the city. But whether they work here, live here, or just move here, the general reaction that Mayor Patrick Cannon was arrested and indicted on corruption charges is that of utter disappointment.
I am just really surprised that it went on for 4 years before anyone was able to really find out and see what what was going on.
It's definitely a disappointment. I feel when you're in a position of a mayor, any position that has a title, you know, people trust you. You're a trustworthy individual. So for a person of that power to take that power for granted, it's definitely a disappointment. It's definitely nothing that you want to see.
And Shirley, speaking with people in the public, they conveyed to me their disappointment because they saw Mayor Patrick Cannon as quite a role model, especially for young children in the area. And although this still really has to play out in the court, and these are mere allegations, they say that it is still disappointing to see that the mayor is in such a position. Reporting from the Government Center, Bora Kim, NBC Charlotte.
Bora, thank you. NBC Charlotte is committed to following this breaking story. We'll have another live update in just minutes on NBC Charlotte News at 5:30, and we'll bring you any new developments on air and online at WCNC.com.
And now to more breaking news. We want to show you some photos just into the newsroom from Charlotte Douglas Airport, where a U.S. Airways flight was forced to abort takeoff this afternoon. A spokesperson for the airline says there was an indication of a possible mechanical issue, so the pilot aborted takeoff to New Orleans out of an abundance of caution. The plane taxied back to the gate. All 119 passengers on board are being put on other flights.
Cold, cold, cold weather today, but there is some warmer weather on the horizon. Coming up, I'll let you know when we're going to see the 70s return to your forecast.
Next on NBC Charlotte at 5, what the TSA wants added to airport checkpoints to help keep them safe. Plus,
oh no. Oh my God.
Terrifying moments caught on camera. A construction worker stuck on the top floor of a condo complex as it goes up in flames.
And continuing coverage of that breaking news, Mayor Patrick Cannon arrested on corruption charges. NBC Charlotte, the first to break this story on air. Stay here for all the latest developments. Still developing this evening, a recommendation by the TSA. They want armed officers posted at airport security checkpoints during peak hours. This recommendation comes after a nationwide review in response to a shooting at LAX last fall where a TSA officer was killed in that attack. Since then, law enforcement, airline, and airport operators have met multiple times to discuss ways to improve airport security.
Well, today, school bus drivers in Charlotte and across North Carolina are counting the number of cars that ignore their stop sign arms. Look at this here. Our cameras caught cars doing just that yesterday. Bus drivers hope a statewide count will bring attention to the problem that puts kids at risk every day. Last year, just in Mecklenburg County, bus drivers counted 721 offenders in one day. By the way, if you're caught and convicted, expect to pay a $500 fine.
All right, still ahead, cell phone video captures a dramatic rescue. Hundreds of feet in the air as fire crews scramble to save a worker stranded on the balcony of a burning apartment building.
Plus, a Salisbury restaurant becomes a crime scene as an off-duty deputy fatally shoots a gunman robbing that restaurant. We'll have the latest information when we come back.
And one more deep freeze tonight with temperatures in the 20s, but we're going to start that warm-up coming up in my 7-day forecast.
Our breaking news coverage of Mayor Cannon's arrest continues. NBC Charlotte was the only TV station to speak with him right after he walked out of federal court facing corruption charges. He told reporter Rad Berkey he had nothing to say to voters until more information is available. Our crews have also been at the mayor's Charlotte home, which is being searched right now. We are on top of this story and we'll bring you details as they develop. When we're not on the air, we'll have updates at WCNC.com. Well, restaurant workers cheered after an off-duty cop shot and killed a masked gunman who tried to rob the place.
NBC Charlotte reporter Michelle Bowden spoke with one of those customers who was inside the China Buffet in Salisbury when this happened. She joins us live now with the latest. A wild story, Michelle.
Yeah, hey, Dave, want to get you the latest details. We now know the name of the officer, 41-year-old Mark Kemp. He's a Rowan County Sheriff's deputy based at the jail, fairly new on the job. He was just hired back in May, but tonight, the people that were inside that restaurant are calling him a hero. Most of the customers, about 24 people, were just finishing up dinner. James, an off-duty firefighter and EMT, and his wife among them.
I looked up and he was to my right. He had the rifle aimed at, I suppose, at the cashier.
Police say a man with a bandana over his face started waving a shotgun as he walked through Salisbury's China Buffet trying to find the cashier.
He went past us, and I knew he's going to have to come back past us to get out. And I was wondering what I was going to do next.
He didn't have to. Instead, an off-duty police officer, also there eating dinner, sprang into action.
I saw the police officer. He was up and had taken a stance, and he announced himself, and pop, 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 and it was over.
Employees began to clap.
I think he did exactly what you expect a police officer to do. And I was grateful he was there, because if he had not been there, any number of things could have happened.
At this point, authorities have not released the name of the suspect involved in all of this. The Rowan County Sheriff's Department has done an internal investigation and cleared their deputy, but the DA will make the final decision on that. The SBI is continuing to investigate. Reporting live now in Salisbury, Michelle Bowden, NBC Charlotte.
Well, as we've seen today, a lot of sunshine out there, which is great, but cooler temperatures, but a big warm-up is on the way, Brad.
Yeah, huge warm, especially compared to what we've had recently. Now, it's going to be cold again tonight. We're going to have a hard freeze with temperatures well down into the mid-20s, slightly warmer tomorrow. We're going to be closer to 60 degrees, but with the warm weather returning, we have the opportunity with some spring-like storms both Friday and I think Saturday, especially a day to watch. Temperature now 50 degrees. That has been our high temperature for the date. The temperature started down at 24 this morning. One of the coldest readings we've seen this late in the season. We haven't seen a low this cold this late since probably 2007. You have to go back to that Easter freeze we had that year. I think that was on April 8th that year. We got down into the upper teens and low 20s. Mostly sunny skies. There's our nor'easter pulling away from us right now. That's a massive storm. This is the strongest system in the Atlantic in the last 2 years. I mean, you have to go back and look at maybe the 1993 superstorm to see a storm that strong. This would have been stronger if it was a hurricane than any storm in the hurricane season last year in the Atlantic. It just goes to show you how strong that system was, and thankfully it moved well offshore and didn't impact the Carolinas. Freeze warnings up for the Piedmont again tonight. Growing season has started, so that means the temperature will be well down into the 20s by tomorrow morning, likely in a few spots even colder than it was this morning. Now, the cold weather has relaxed the pollen levels just a bit. But with the warm air returning and a southwest wind, we're going to see those pollen levels start to ramp back up. And here's the reason why. High pressure builds in pretty quickly tonight and tomorrow. We'll get into a southwest wind, which should warm us up close to 60 tomorrow. On Friday, with southwest winds, we could get in close to 70. And I think on Saturday, with this low approaching, we're really going to pull up some warm air. That's going to do two things. It might get us into the low and mid 70s, but it's also going to give us a chance for some strong, possibly severe storms along this cold front late Saturday afternoon into the evening. It's certainly something I'm going to keep an eye on as we go into the evening hours on Saturday. Now, tonight we'll see clear skies in the mountains with temperatures in the teens. Here in the Piedmont, we'll drop down into the low and mid-20s, so a hard freeze again tonight. As you go east of Charlotte, clear skies and temperatures in the 20s. When you look at the 5-day temperature trend, we're finally going to see temperatures get back to where they should be, above 67, which is our average high. Brief cool down on Sunday, but when you look at the 7-day forecast, nice rebound in temperatures as we go into next week. We'll see temperatures maybe by this time next Wednesday in the mid to upper 70s, and dare I say maybe even a few spots getting close to 80 degrees.
I don't mind at all. You can say that all you want.
Yeah.
All right. Well, dramatic cell phone video captures the rescue of a worker on the upper floors of a building that became engulfed in flames.
Yeah, the scene played out yesterday afternoon in Houston, Texas.
Oh, my God.
Where?
Do they see him?
Terrifying moments caught on camera by a woman in the building next door. This construction worker got stuck on the top floor of the condo complex. Frantically waving at rescuers, he eventually jumps to the balcony below to escape the flames.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Lucky for him, Houston firefighters were on their way. They raised the ladder up and rescued him.
Oh, thank Jesus. Thank you, God.
Senior Captain Brad Hawthorne was on the edge of that ladder and made the save.
I said, all right, come on. And he had to make the leap, so he kind of jumped and grabbed on. And I said, hang on. Within a couple seconds, right, the roof caved in and the whole 5th floor kind of went out.
Hawthorne admits at that moment his adrenaline was pumping.
It was pretty hairy. It was, just the noise from the fire. It was just the cracking and popping of all that, the wood. It was pretty loud.
The captain says this rescue wouldn't have been possible without help from these guys. They worked together at Station 18. Dwayne Weibel is the chauffeur. He was behind the wheel of the ladder truck. It was his job to put it in the perfect position for a safe rescue. They all admit this fire was intense, one of the worst they've seen.
You just don't see 5 floors burning all at once.
This is one of the fastest growing fires that I've ever been to. I mean, it ran that whole roof and that whole building so fast, and seconds count.
That construction worker is fine. In fact, these are his co-workers. They tell us they were all doing stucco work on some of the walls when the fire started suddenly. Everyone's just thankful this story has a happy ending.
He was good talking to me and, just excited, thanking us a lot.
Well, it took nearly 200 firefighters, more than 2 hours to bring that 5-alarm fire under control. The cause is under investigation, but fortunately no one was hurt. And those pictures are just amazing to see, isn't it?
Yeah, we see the intensity of those flames. It is unimaginable that somebody got out of that alive.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we head to break here, a live look at Uptown Charlotte. Beautiful day out there, but only 50 degrees, but a lot of sunshine. A big warm-up is on the way. Back with more in a moment. Take a look here at a basketball that talks to you. This is a smart sensor basketball. Its goal is to improve how players shoot and handle the ball. As players run through drills to build muscle memory, they constantly hear and see coaching tips through an app. It costs around $250. InfoMotion Sports says it's also working to create a smart soccer ball that it hopes to unveil later this year. That's something I don't need. You miss that shot over and over and over. Bad shot, bad shot,
right,
bad
yeah.
shot.
I don't need to be reminded of that either. Would not do me any good.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, do stay with us this afternoon because we do have continuing coverage on the arrest of Charlotte Mayor Patrick Cannon. That is coming your way at 5:30. Stay right here.